Hey, book lovers. Welcome to While I Read. I'm Katie, and today I'm going to tell you about the best books that I've read so far in 2025. So, we are about halfway through the year. So far, I've read 42 books. I'm pretty pleased with that. It's been a pretty good year for reading for me. As I've mentioned before on this channel, this has been somewhat of a difficult year for me. The most difficult year of my life, in fact, because my dad passed away on March 29th. A lot of my reading has been me seeking comfort and relaxation because that's one of the things that I've found that reading is able to take my mind off of my grief and my sadness. So that's been really helpful to me. So, for the books that I've read, this year has really been the year of the cozy mystery for me. I still love thrillers. I do have four thrillers that I'm going to talk about today, but I think I've read more cozy mysteries this year than I have in a long time. I've got five cozy mysteries to talk about, and then I also have one nonfiction book to talk about. I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I do have this one to talk about this time. I should mention that the books that I talk about today are not in any particular order, other than I'm going to talk about cozy mysteries first, then thrillers, and then the nonfiction book that I read. They're not like in order, from my least favorite to my favorite or something like that. These are just 10 books that I have enjoyed so far this year. Also, some of these books were published in 2025. Others of them were published years ago, but I just read them for the first time in 2025. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first book that I want to tell you about is Schooled in Murder by Victoria Gilbert. And this is the first in a new series for her, the Campus Sleuth series. This book was published in January of this year. It's about a woman named Jen Dalton, who is a mystery writer and also an educator at Clarion University in Virginia. She runs the Writing Center at that college. Already, this book was really cool to me because I run a tutoring center at the college where I work, and I also like to write. I felt like I had a lot in common with this character. So, of course, another professor at the college where Jen works is murdered. This is kind of an uppity professor, and Jen had a student who had some kind of public arguments with this professor. He gave her bad grades on some writing, and so this student is suspected of that professor's murder. So Jen is helping her student to prove her innocence. Jen gets help from a librarian, from the cafeteria manager, and from the campus psychologist. This was just a really fun campus mystery. I love most cozy mysteries that are set on campus. I loved books with writers as the main characters, and I loved the fact that I had so much in common with this main character. So this was just really the perfect book for me. I can't wait until another book comes out in this series. Another favorite cozy mystery for me so far this year is The Body in the Bookstore by Ellie Alexander. This was published, I believe, back last summer, and it is about a bookseller named Annie Murray. She works in this small town called Redwood Grove. She works in this dream bookstore that's modeled after like Agatha Christie's home or like Agatha Christie books. And in this first book, she is having a summer mystery festival when someone is actually murdered. And so Annie has to investigate the death. There's also an overarching mystery that goes through all of the books in this series. It's the Secret Bookcase series. This is the first book in it. And this overarching mystery involves Annie's college roommate, Scarlett, who was murdered right before their graduation. It's been 10 years ago, but Annie, of course, they never found the murderer. So Annie is still thinking about this, and she ends up finding some clues about her roommate Scarlett's murder as well. So this is a completed series now. There are 6 books in it. And I read all of them and enjoyed all of them so much. I could have put more books from the series on my favorites list, but I decided I would just have one book to represent the different series that I read. I also have gotten to know the author, Ellie Alexander, this year because she has been my writing coach and has helped me so much with improving my writing skills. So this book, The Body in the Bookstore, definitely has a special place in my heart. You can binge all of the books, all 6 books in this series now, and it's so good and so satisfying. Another cozy mystery that I have loved this year was The Silence of the Library by Miranda James. This is number 5 in the Cat in the Stacks series. I read several books, I believe maybe the first 6 books in this series this year, and I just really enjoyed it. This series is about a librarian named Charlie. He works in a small college town in Mississippi, as in the library of that college. He has a Maine Coon cat named Diesel who goes with him everywhere. He goes to work, he goes to visit friends, he walks around town on a leash with him. So Diesel is a great part of these books. In this book, he also volunteers at the public library in town, and they are having a special exhibit for National Library Week where they're showcasing the books of this famous author named Electra Barnes Cartwright. And she wrote about a girl detective, kind of like Nancy Drew, but this girl's name was Veronica Thane. And so they're all thrilled to learn that this author, Electra Barnes Cartwright, is still living, and she's willing to come and speak at the celebration for her books. But there are some rabid fans and book collectors who hear about her coming to speak. Many of them want to get her autograph, or they want to get their hands on rare copies of books, and some murders end up taking place that Charlie has to solve. I love all of these books because they take place in this small town in the South. The people seem like people I know. Charlie is a great character. He's in his 50s, so he's a little older than most of the heroes or heroines of cozy mysteries. And I just love reading about his life and his cat Diesel, his relationships with people. It's just a great series. This book has been my favorite so far because of the focus on these books. You actually get to read a Veronica Thane mystery as part of the mystery of this book. So really great series, and I love this 5th book in it. Another cozy mystery that I loved this year was Buried in a Good Book by Tamara Berry. This was published a few years ago. It's the first in the By the Book mystery series. There are 3 books in this series now. I've just read the first one. It's about a thriller author named Tess Harrow. She is going through this really tough divorce. She has a daughter. I think her daughter is 13, maybe 14. Her daughter's name is Gertie, and they go to this cabin in the woods that belonged to Tess's grandfather. She inherited it from him. She doesn't really know her grandfather that well. She spent maybe a couple of summers with him as a kid, but she inherited this cabin, and so they go there. It's deep in the woods outside of this small town. I believe the town is in Northern California. And it's a very rustic cabin, no Wi-Fi connection, not even any running water. So as they're moving in, they hear this loud explosion, and then water droplets start falling on them, a few fish guts, and then, oh, maybe a human arm. So it turns out that there was this body in the lake nearby. Somebody was dynamiting the lake, and body parts are now sprinkling down on Tess and her daughter. That sounds really gross. Maybe I'll edit that out as I edit this video. But it's not really that gross reading about it. It's actually hilarious reading about it. So Tess has to start trying to figure out who murdered this woman in whose body ended up in the lake. And she's also navigating her relationship with her daughter. They're both trying to come to terms with the divorce that has just happened. Tess is interacting with local law enforcement. There have been sightings of Bigfoot running around in the woods near Tess's cabin, and that turns out to be a major part of the plot. This book is it's like a slapstick comedy with some murder thrown in. Of course, I enjoy the isolated location. I enjoy the fact that Tess is an author. Reading about her relationship with her daughter Gertie was a really fun part of this book as well. So I really loved this first one, Buried in a Good Book, and I'm looking forward to reading the others in this series. The last cozy mystery that I'll tell you about is Get Away with Murder by Diane Kelly. This is the first in her Mountain Lodge mystery series. There are only 3 books in this series, but I enjoyed it so much. It's about a woman named Misty. She has just turned 50 and she's just gone through a divorce, an amicable divorce, but of course still difficult. And she has decided to buy this mountain lodge and turn it into a vacation retreat. I really loved just her spirit, her plucky spirit of, I'm going to do this. She moves up here to this mountain town. She makes friends there with a local restaurant owner and also with a handsome handyman who she hires to help her. So on opening weekend of her lodge, this group comes to stay. They're from this like fitness retreat kind of thing. And the leader of the group ends up being murdered. So Misty ends up getting involved in the case and trying to figure out who murdered this woman. Was it one of the group from the retreat, or was it someone else in her life? This book was really good. It had a really good mystery. I loved the Blue Ridge Mountain setting, and I loved the main character, the sleuth. She's a little older than a lot of sleuths, and I just loved her spirit and personality. This book will also always have a special place in my heart because it's the book that I was reading when my dad went into the hospital. I sat in his hospital room with him reading it. The very last time that I spent time with my dad, he was reading his own book in the hospital. I was sitting there reading my book. We had a nice, peaceful day together. And then, of course, he passed away unexpectedly. And I was so broken up and so upset. And I didn't know if I could ever finish that book. But eventually I picked it up again, and it was so comforting to me to continue reading. Reading is just something that's really helped me to get through my dad's unexpected death and the grief that I've felt. So this book, and then after I read this one, I read the other 2 books in the Mountain Lodge series, and they were really comforting to me as I went through the hardest time of my life. Next, I want to tell you about my favorite thrillers that I've read so far this year. So the first one is Retreat by Kristen Ritter. This is a brand new book that came out, I believe, in March. It's about a con artist named Liz Dawson. She is helping a woman named Isabel by installing a piece of art in Isabel's vacation home in this luxurious retreat in Mexico. And Liz is kind of there under false pretenses. She's not really an art expert. And while she's there in this beautiful, luxurious mansion in this resort, people start mistaking her for Isabel. And so Liz ends up deciding to go with it and just letting herself drop into Isabel's glamorous, exciting life. But then Liz finds out that Isabel may have had some dark secrets that Liz is now involved in. This was a great book, especially for the spring or summer season, because it's set at this beach resort. She goes swimming all the time. She goes to the beach. She goes to fancy parties with other rich people. It was a very exciting book. It kept me interested the whole time. So I definitely recommend this thriller. Another mystery thriller that was one of my favorites so far this year is Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies by Catherine Mack. This is about an author named Eleanor Dash. She has a best-selling series of thriller books that feature a main character who's a detective named Connor. Connor is based on a real person, and Eleanor is somewhat unwillingly kind of tied to the real Connor now. He's part of her books, and he also is part of her life. So they go on this book trip to Italy, where it's like a promotional trip for her latest book. Eleanor is wanting to kill off the Connor in her books. While they're on the trip, the real Connor tells Eleanor that he's afraid someone is actually trying to kill him in real life. So we have this great setting where they're going around to all of these different places in Italy. They're eating delicious food and seeing beautiful scenery. But then things are happening that make Eleanor suspect that somebody might really be trying to kill Connor. There are other authors who are on this trip, including Eleanor's ex, her sister, who's her assistant, is also on this trip. Lots of great characters. Eleanor breaks the fourth wall in this book because she has footnotes where she speaks directly to the reader. I listened to this book and really enjoyed the audiobook. A sequel to it, No One Was Supposed to Die at This Wedding, came out about a month ago. I enjoyed the sequel. I liked the first one the best. So I definitely recommend Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies. Another thriller that was one of my favorites this year was The Last Room on the Left by Leah Conan. This book came out in January of this year, and it was the perfect book to read back in January when it got really cold here. It even snowed here in Georgia. I was reading this book during that time, and it was absolutely perfect. It's about this woman named Carrie. She has a book deal that was supposed to be life-changing for her, but she's having a really hard time finishing her book. Her boyfriend, possibly husband, I'm not sure, has just left her. And so she's having a really difficult time. She ends up taking on this caretaker position at this isolated motel in the Catskills. And she's not really going to have that much to do. She just has to live at this motel, make sure that things are going okay. Nobody's staying there. It's the off season. And she's going to have plenty of time to write her book. So when she gets there, there's this huge snowstorm that comes through. She doesn't have cell service. She is, snowed in this motel. She looks out the window and she sees an arm. There is a dead body outside the window that's been murdered. So she has to figure out what to do. This book was just non-stop to me. And like I said, I loved the snowy, wintry, snowed in, claustrophobic atmosphere. Great book. The last thriller that I'll tell you about that I really loved this year was A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall. This book came out, I believe, in February, and so I read it when it was cold outside, and that was perfect. A Killing Cold is about a woman named Theo. She has just gotten engaged to a man named Connor Dalton. He is from this very rich family. Theo was adopted, or at least in foster care, and she had kind of a rough childhood. So she doesn't exactly fit in this rich world that Connor is from. So she goes to stay with Connor on his family's winter retreat called Idlewood. And while she's there, she goes into this unused cabin and she finds a picture of herself when she was a very young child. And it's a picture of her at Idlewood. She doesn't have any memory of coming to Idlewood before, so she doesn't understand what this picture means. But then she starts finding out that the Dalton family has some very dark secrets and she may be in danger. This book was great. It was perfect to read in the wintertime, but maybe you'd enjoy reading it in the summer too, to, imagine yourself in this snowy atmosphere. It kept me interested the whole time. It had some great twists in it, just what you want in a thriller. That's it for the thrillers that were my favorites this year so far. The last book that I want to talk about is a nonfiction book, and that is Good Grief by Granger E. Westberg. This book was given to me by a dear friend right after my dad passed away. It's about grief. As you can see, it's very short. It's a very small book. It was a quick, easy read. And it just talks about some of the things that most people experience when they're going through grief. It helped me to feel less overwhelmed by all of these very strong emotions that I was feeling, because it talked about the things that you'll experience when you're grieving someone very deeply. It's hard not to feel like something is wrong with you or like you're never going to recover, when, at least for me, that's how I felt. And from this book I found out that a lot of people do feel like that when someone they love passes away. It helped me to understand that these things that I'm feeling are normal and that I'll have good days and bad days, but that I will start feeling better one day. And my grief is less acute now than it was when my dad first passed away. It's still hard, and I still have bad moments and bad days, but I do have good days too. Another book that I should talk about that I have been really diving into this year is the Bible. I read the Bible daily. I am doing a plan where I'm reading through Psalms right now and listening to some commentary on it and really enjoying it. So, reading the Bible is another thing that has really helped me with my reading this year. What I tried to do with this video is give you a representation of my reading for this year and the books that I have enjoyed. So please let me know what your favorite books have been so far this year. My goal is to read 100 books before the year is out. I think last year I got to like 92. I'm not really on track to read 100 this year, and that's okay. I just love reading, and I appreciate you coming along with me on this reading journey. I look forward to telling you more about my reading as the year continues. Now, you go for a walk in the woods while I read.